Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the payoff.
It's SummerSlam 1992. It's the Macho Man Randy Savage. It's the Ultimate Warrior. Two of my favorite characters of all time. There may have been far better careers since, but like this is my childhood, man. Like these are the guys that I grew up loving. So yes, Warrior was a flash in the pan and he doesn't have the body of work of, Kenny Omega, but dude, the colors, the characters, the moments that we grew up watching. So these two in the ring together, man, I'm sitting here looking at it's paused at the point we're going to start the match, but man, just the colors and the paint and Wembley Stadium and the pageantry of this is just so unbelievable. But I also know the match kind of underwhelms in the sense of, some of the shenanigans and stuff. So anyways, man, I say all that to say I'm really excited to cover this one. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. This is that. I know I wish there was so much more we could cover from this time. There was just a lot of matches and stuff that, this was the wrestling you and I grew up on, not, post 2000, pre-2000s rather. So, and these were, no matter how you feel about these guys and some of the crazy stuff that, whether Jim Hellwig did or, even Macho, some of the stories that have come out and how he just operated in the ring. It's behind Hogan. This was, you could interchange these guys as 2 and 3. Like, there were just some of the best out there. And so, I'm excited because there's, the few matches that these guys had, this is one where, I'm just, the setting itself, we're at Wembley. And so this is just a really cool match to kind of check out and watch. So I'm just ready. I'm ready to get into it.
Awesome, man. All right, let's get into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So, it doesn't seem unique now, but at the time, this was pretty wild because this was taking place August 29th, but it didn't air in the United States until August 31st. Mm-hmm. So you have people paying $30 or whatever it was at the time to watch a show that took place, 2 days prior. And the time zones, and it was just wild. Like that this happened. And to show you the significance of it, it didn't happen again until 2022. So It took 30 years for them to basically do this again. I think now we're going to start to see more of this. Obviously, we've got the Saudi shows. We've got UK shows. We've got, I believe, something coming up in Australia if it hasn't been announced at the time of us recording this. But, so we're starting to get this stuff. But at the time, this was just really, really wild. And again, it shows you how difficult it is. It's like WrestleMania 2 in 3 different locations. Well, they've only tried that one other time. And they said even in, whatever year it was when they did the Raw 25, it was still really hard to do, casting from 2 different buildings. So anyways, man, I'm just really excited to cover this match. The build you'll get into, but it was really odd. And I think part of it's just babyface versus babyface. It's just really, really tough to do. But dude, this show over $3.5 million in revenue, packed house. It just looked, and I'm sure we'll see some wide shots when we watch the match, but it just looked like $1 million on TV. It looked so good. This was just so much different and so unique. I just remember as a kid just really, really being into this. We got a couple dark matches. Ironically, there were 3 dark matches, 2 of them before the show, and then one of them took place before the main event. It didn't air on the pay-per-view. I'm guessing they had to get it to 3 hours. The dark matches, Hacksaw and the Bushwhackers are going to defeat the Mountie and Nasty Boys in a 6-man tag in 12 minutes. And then Papa Shango is going to defeat Tito Santana in 6 minutes. So we kick off the show, and I don't know if you remember this, but just the Legion of Doom entrance was just sick. And then Money Inc. Came out to these like white. DiBiase was wearing like this all white outfit that I'll never forget. It all looked great. But the Legion of Doom are going to beat Money Inc. In a 15-minute match. If you remember, and I think this was on Dark Side of the Ring, but this is the one where Hawk went missing. He got in like a biker gang and went on a bender and didn't come back for a week or whatever. Yeah, so pretty crazy. And I think that he barely made it to this show also. Nails is going to defeat Virgil in 4 minutes. Rick Martel and Shawn Michaels ends at a double count out in 8 minutes. This was kind of this, and so this was I'm like 99% positive this was heel versus heel. So this was Rick Martel and Shawn Michaels not sure where Sherry stood, and it was heel versus heel, which was also really, really weird at the time. Natural Disasters are your tag champions. They're going to retain against the Beverly Brothers in 10 minutes. Crush is going to defeat the Repo Man in 5 minutes. The match we're covering is next. So, I mean, how many times in this era did you see a world title match that wasn't the main event? Really, really crazy. Taker is going to defeat Kamala by DQ. I guess they were building to eventually a casket match. But just think about that. The Undertaker in a 3-minute match and doesn't win against Kamala. Then we had a dark match of Tatanka defeating the Berserker in 5 minutes. Tatanka, a friend of the payoff. And then in your main event, British Bulldog wins the IC title against Bret Hart. So, and I'll get into this during the match when I talk about how this show was received. But basically, this was billed as a 2-match show, and it was a 2-match show. So, Warrior Savage. They had wrestled previously, about a year and a half prior at WrestleMania. Retirement match. Macho's back. He's your champion. Beats Ric Flair. They're both baby faces. Warrior's back in the fold. How do we get to this babyface match? Why in the hell was Ric Flair not wrestling on this show or wrestling against one of these guys? I have questions, Jeff. Help enlighten us, please.
So for this one, we actually got to go way back, actually 1990, when, well, they had a few matches in 1989. It was mostly house show type stuff, but then they really, the rivalry, rather, they were face or heel, started in 1990. You had the sensational Sherry, who was managing Savage, actually trying to get a match between these two. The Warrior not wanting to do it and defend. At the time, he had the WWFE championship against Savage. He actually ripped up the contract that Sherry gave him, but they were still having matches at house shows over the next couple of months. And so, but Savage unable to win the title at any point. And it was interesting because they really didn't have a whole lot of televised matches against each other. And so I was trying to find stuff that they may have occasionally here and there, but I couldn't really find where they were on the week to week kind of wrestling each other. It's mostly at house shows type stuff. So fast forward a little here, 1991 in the Royal Rumble, you had Savage interfering in the match, which will let Sergeant Slaughter win the title. And so then these guys went on to have the retirement match at WrestleMania 7. Of course, as we know, no retirement in wrestling is forever. And so you had the Warrior winning that match, which forced Savage into retirement, but he would come back. It was actually late 1991. But at that point, the Warrior had left WWE. And so just unusual, and so these guys just kind of passing ships in the night. The following year, 1992, we had the Warrior, though, returning at WrestleMania 8, that April 1992. He was granted a shot at the championship, which Savage had won from Ric Flair that night. And so Flair, working with Mr. Perfect at this point, they were upset that Flair had not been granted the match. And so they decided that they were going to interfere with the Savage Warrior match at that point. And so jump a little bit forward, and in that August, it was actually I put it here. Mr. Perfect claimed that he was in negotiations with Savage and Warrior, who both had sought his managerial services, but refused to clarify which wrestler he would support at SummerSlam.
This was so stupid. This is so stupid, by the way. At the time, it was stupid. It made no sense.
Yep. And so I had forgotten about these. Do you remember the SummerSlam Spectacular? This is one.
I believe it was on Fox, right?
It was USA, and it was 1 week prior to it was almost like a special 2-hour show.
Saturday Night's Main Event type.
Yes.
Thing. Yeah.
So they did these in 91, 92, and 93. And just I'll get into the card on this one, but it was really designed to promote the pay-per-view. Like, it was to sell the pay-per-view. But some of the matches that they had on here didn't really line up with. It would not be something that would sell me on, oh my gosh, you have to turn in to watch. Like, it was just unusual. But during that one, you had Savage and Warrior teaming up to face the Nasty Boys on that one, which Perfect and Ric Flair interfering in that match. It was actually a count-out victory for the Nasty Boys, which just weird to think, like, literally the week before you have your two biggest stars losing to the Nasty Boys. Unfortunately, I could not find any write-ups on this one. I wish I could have. I didn't even search that hard for this match. I'm sure it's out there, but just crazy. So but yeah, like, just kind of this little bit of back and forth. Like we said, the Flair Perfect stuff being like, who is aligning with Perfect and using his services as well too. Like you said, both these guys coming into this is, yes, they hate each other, but not as heels. And so it's just very unusual in that sense too. And so yeah, that's how we get into this one.
Ugh, all right. This is just a tough one. Considering what these two did at WrestleMania 7, I don't know how you didn't come up with a better storyline. But, Jeff, the answer is this is during the steroid trial. And so if you look at this era, the booking sucked. And Bruce Pritchard was actually not with the company. He had been fired. He was not with, I think he started up right after this show, if I'm not mistaken. So from a booking standpoint, it was just an absolute disaster. And it just sucks, man, because what could have been. But we're going to cover this. It was a decently received match. It's not like the match was bad, so I'm just more caught up in how bad the story was getting into this. But we're going to watch it. We're going to have some fun. We're at the 1 hour and 21 minute mark of SummerSlam 1992. 1 hour and 21 minute mark, SummerSlam 1992. Jeff, are you ready?
I got us queued up. I'm ready.
All right, it's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
We will see Mr. Perfect. It appears as though, however, both men have rejected Mr. Perfect.
Dude, look at this crowd.
Yeah, crazy loud on the feet. Both guys looking great.
Almost Savage's outfits, like, don't even.
This was Warrior 2 in that, like, one, or that singlet that looked like muscles.
Which is wild, because apparently he was self-conscious about being down a little bit.
Savage wanting to shake the hand of the Warrior. Are they going to? I don't think so.
Kind of unique, a pre-match handshake.
Say what?
A pre-match handshake.
We're not going to see any scientific matchup here. Let's go. They're ready. Here we go. Talk about intensity.
Crowd's into it.
Oh, yeah. Real loud.
Randy Savage ready for perhaps the counter defense of his life. For the Ultimate Warrior, it's make it or break it.
I mean, this is wild, man. This is just really, it's just really cool to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Still frustrates me that, Savage is out of the company not long after this.
Yeah.
The story, Bruce Pritchard says, look, Savage didn't want to wrestle anymore. And he moved to Connecticut and wanted to work in the office. So,
it's so weird. Yeah.
We'll never know. Savage obviously not with us. His brother used to share stuff during interviews, but it was all secondhand. And he obviously wanted to protect Macho's legacy. But Bruce Pritchard says, look, Savage, just did not want to wrestle anymore. And so, he'd go on to wrestle for 5-6 years in WCW, whatever it was. But yeah, we're off to a start here. Babyface versus babyface. Savage is your champion. Place is going nuts. It's dark now at Wembley. I think it was light out when the show started. I'm just looking forward to this one, man. This was the second best reviewed match on the show, obviously behind the Intercontinental title match. But there were people that said this was the best match on the show, even better than, we romanticize on the Bulldog Brett match. But 25% of the people that sent in something to the Observer said this was the best match on the show, if you can believe that. So
yeah, it probably wasn't much separating it. Both matches are going a long time, like kind of doing this. So you got the Warrior just kind of, I kind of expected it to be this way, kind of a slow opening. Not surprised by that. Both guys just kind of, I'd say, methodical. You got the Warrior right now. I think a lot of it, playing up the crowd though. Yep.
So this show, 73% thumbs up, 15% thumbs down, 11% thumbs in the middle. Worst match was Nails Virgil by far.
Yeah. Which doesn't surprise me. So I did want to talk too about this SummerSlam Spectacular too. And so this was, it was interesting too, because like even this show, it was taped and then, 3 days later, it aired. So the SummerSlam Spectacular 1992 was taped August 11th, 1992, but didn't air until August 23rd. It was actually recorded in Nashville when they were taken there. So this one too, you were talking about what was Ric Flair up to at this point. Ric Flair actually beat El Matador in a 16-minute opening match of this show. Tatanka beating Kato in 8:40, Nails beating Ken Wayne, which I don't remember Ken Wayne. It was the Nightmare Ken Wayne. And then you had this Warrior Savage taking on the Nasty Boys, the countout match. Rick Martel beating Joey Maggs in a 2.5-minute match. Joey Maggs also going by I don't know. And so, just not around. Kamala defeating Burt Styles, who I couldn't find anything on very much. Money Inc. taking on the Bushwhackers and beating them. And then to sell your main event here, Bret Hart actually beating Skinner. And so I get that the whole point is to get you excited about this SummerSlam card, but that would not get me excited about anything. I don't know about you.
Oh, I completely agree. It's just an interesting time, man. It really is. And, you have all this stuff in flux because of, think about everything. I'm fascinated by 1992 WWF. Think about what's going on here. So this is after WrestleMania 8, okay? Which means you've Savage, who was supposedly retired, is now your world champion. You have Ric Flair that's, been with the company for under a year, was your champion as of Royal Rumble, but then loses it, but he's around. Hulk Hogan's gone and maybe forever. Like, we don't know if he's ever going to wrestle again. It was almost like a retirement at WrestleMania 8, but he's gone. You have Warrior back in the fold randomly, right? After he had been fired at SummerSlam 91. So he's, basically in the double main event at 92. At 91 was the one where he went out, wrestled, and Vince fired him backstage afterwards at Madison Square Garden.
After, yeah.
Okay? So, you have that going on. Bruce Pritchard, who, is basically kind of your like head booker, he's gone at the time. Jerry Jarrett may be taking over the company if Vince goes to jail. Bret Hart is your IC champion, which means he's kind of next in line to be a world champion at some time. So he's starting to heat up. I mean, it's just a wild, wild time. So keep in mind, following this match, Meltzer called it. He was, he called what was going to happen, which is, hey, Flair is going to get the title back from Savage at the Hershey, PA tapings because of this leg injury that he sustained during this match. So that had already been, I guess, kind of well known. Now, my thought, Jeff, is, well, why not do that at this show? And I don't know if it was, hey, we want to give him. I mean, to me, it's like maybe you give Warrior a squash match win. Like, could the Warrior have beaten Papa Shango on this show in 2 minutes and the place went nuts? And then you have Flair defeat Savage in the rematch from WrestleMania. Again, the bookings just does not make sense to me at all. I don't get it.
Especially with the main event of the card has no bearing on this stuff. Like, okay, you got Brett and Bulldog because of where you're at, but like, so you really could have done any of that on the lower card.
Yeah, in this spot, you have Flair get the championship back. And then you have Warrior, or you put Warrior into a big match and make it a triple main event. I mean, if Warrior is such a huge star, obviously, who can you put him against that would have been a really big match? I mean, I'm just looking here. Let's just look at the card for a second here. Could you have done Warrior defeating Kamala or Papa Shango? Or had him squash the Berserker, or Shawn Michaels. I mean, what else could you have done with Warrior in that spot? I mean, because Flair is there. Flair was able to work. He just didn't wrestle. It just made no sense to me. And then instead, you're going to give the title back to Flair. Why not have him do it on this show?
Because spoiler, he ends up losing it like a week later.
Well, so let me. Yeah.
Go ahead.
But that's different. So here's the deal. Flair gets the title. The intent was to then have a Flair Warrior feud where Warrior would eventually get the title back. So Warrior, we're actually trying to get the title on the Warrior. Unfortunately, Flair hated working with Warrior, and Flair got vertigo. So he had to immediately give up the title to Bret Hart. The other thing that we were trying to do is we were trying to get to Randy Savage versus Razor Ramon. So it's just this whole year was just snake bitten. And remember, this is like the first major show without Hulk Hogan. There was no mention of Hulk Hogan. There was no Hulk Hogan on this show.
And I think a lot of this too is okay. Yeah. You figure, Brett is more your top guy at this point. You have these guys kind of going at it. I also, I don't know what it is. In between, like I said, my weeks now is Dark Side has been back on. I've been watching. Oh, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch this or that. And I watched the Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior film show, whatever you want to call it as well too. And it was interesting because like at this point in 92, the Warrior, I feel like was hated by every single person backstage. My favorite during that was, and I don't know the last time you watched it or not, but Bobby Heenan absolutely hated Jim Hellwig with every ounce of his body. And so, and like, was just like the shit he would talk about him was incredible. And so, but I think that's one thing is like these guys, like, you got to start accepting you're past your prime too. And so I find it interesting that, they go out there, and that could have been part of the booking reasons too, is like, okay, yeah, they gave Warrior way too many chances to try and, come back and fix what he was and, restore, some of the old Warrior, if you will. But it never clicked after that first run, really. And so I do wonder how much of that is built into like, okay, we'll give them their moment now, but it's time to start sunsetting them too.
Gosh, another thing going on during all this too was, and I do not know, and I'm not going to find out in the next 5 minutes, so I'm not going to speculate, but Pat Patterson was also involved in some issues. There was an outside investigative group that was, looking into him, and he ultimately kept his job. But again, I mean, it's just, I know that like wrestling, just even for wrestling, this seems like there was just a whole bunch of shit going on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It was just a weird time. It really was. Like you said, with Hulk not being around, like it's just
Roddy Piper
so
played
weird.
bagpipes on the show. Did you know that?
I did not know that. Okay.
He was there, but he didn't wrestle.
That's a good little trivia fact there. Who played the opening bagpipes at SummerSlam 1992?
Hell of a match, man.
Yeah, so it is slow. They're not working a fast-paced match, but they're wrestling hard. Like they are at the time. Like this was a pretty good match.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a heavyweight fight, man. It's just back and forth. It's a really good match.
Yep, absolutely.
It shows you how good Savage was in the ring, man. So Meltzer said that Brett Bulldog was the best match since Savage Steamboat.
Okay, yep. I could see that.
And he really liked this match, too. I mean, it's a great match up until the finish.
Mm-hmm.
How bad must those seats have been up top? Because I don't think they may have had a screen, but I mean, certainly wasn't easy to see.
Not like they do nowadays. It definitely nothing like that. Yeah, that's for sure. It's just crazy, like that. It is like a really cool setup with like it, but it almost looks bigger than it is because of how dark they have it. Like they've got, other than like the right around the ring, it is all blacked out, so you can't see anything. But you can't get a vibe for just how many people are there. They, of course, inflated the number big time, but still interesting. Yep. So do you know at least when Warrior left this time, do you remember who his final match was against in 1992?
So here come Flair and Perfect. Again, Flair's in his ring gear. Like he should have wrestled on this show. So Warrior was supposed to be with Savage against Ramon and Flair at Survivor Series. He got fired before that. So on a house show or in a match, his final match, I'm going to guess it was Razor Ramon.
Unfortunately, it was a victory over Kamala on November 8th. There you go. So
September 8th?
November 8th.
November 8th. Okay.
Because he left just 2 weeks later. Yeah.
Was it on TV or where was it?
It just says in Orlando, Florida. I don't know if it was on where exactly it would have been. Yeah, you got Perfect and Flair coming to the ring now. Everybody kind of checking out to see what's happening there. Yep.
It's a shame with Warrior. I mean, again, just in terms of as a talent, it's a shame that, he wasn't able to play nice and get along with Vince during this era, because it would have been fun to see what if. And, one of the fun things, and I know it was so many years later, who the hell knows what would have happened, but, thinking about like an Ultimate Warrior during the Attitude Era, and it's no different with Savage, but like, Savage, you saw he kind of morphed his character, but like, what is the Ultimate Warrior in the Attitude Era? does he cut his hair? Does he change his attire? Does he dress in all black? Like, what does he do? Sting changed his look. Hogan changed his look. Like, it would have been interesting to see what Warrior did with that character. And then, of course, it always go back to the old character later on.
It's a few years away, but how much I say you got Brett and Bulldog, you don't have these massive, superhero type characters with Warrior and as much anymore. How much of the, I got to ask, like the steroids that was at play at this point, like, there's always been out there, like that's part of why they got rid of Warrior at this point is they were trying to break away from this, like, is superhuman type look. I don't know if that was at this point. I don't know if that was a factor as much.
Well, the rumor is that Bulldog and Warrior both got popped for roids and they had to get rid of them.
Right.
So.
Yeah, because the trial wouldn't be until 1994. But still,
it's just crazy how long that takes. How consuming that is that all this was going on.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Leaving it. Randy Savage knows full well it's Mr. Perfect. Look at it. He's moving in the corner of the Ultimate Warrior.
Listen to Vince trying to sell this.
You took the money from the Warrior. Warrior back to his feet. Warrior selling out. This capacity crowd can't believe it.
The way this works is one guy is actually with them and turns heel.
Yep.
Like that's the weird thing about there is no payoff to this.
I'll talk about it in the aftermath because it was just unusual how it played out. But I think there was a way that it could have been done to. I say save it a little bit, but
how you save it is Savage turns heel and aligns himself with Perfect and Flair.
Right, exactly. Yep. These guys, like outside of we're talking a lot of shit about these guys. Like they're wrestling a really good match. Like they got it.
It's a great match. That's what makes this such a travesty. If it was a bad match, it would be different. So now we got a ref down.
Hebner taking the bump. Flair and Perfect still not getting involved, just kind of hanging out on ringside.
Yeah, that's part of the problem is it is such a good match that, God, if they would have just wrestled a straight match and, shook hands afterwards, or if one of the guys did actually turn heel. So Warrior up top. This is just wild.
This will do it. There's no referee to count. The referee don't know where he's at. 1, 2, kick out. I thought he had it.
Close. Yeah.
This got, this was a well-rated match. I will never understand how you didn't put Flair on this show.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting too, like and again, different era, 4 pay-per-views a year, another ref bump, 4 pay-per-views a year, another issue, or, another thing that's interesting is think about how rarely they did rematches. So think about this. You never got Warrior and Hogan ever again.
Yeah.
You got Hogan and Andre again. Hogan and Savage,
Perfect in the ring. Yep.
You got them in a tag match against each other, but it's not like those two went at it multiple times. Okay, so Flair in his ring gear.
Oh, no! Oh, did he nail him?
Takes out Warrior.
Savage! Wait a minute! Savage!
The brass knucks.
That paid Perfect because all they did to Savage was trip him. That was a setup. They are working for Savage. Wait a minute, I'm not so sure Randy Savage saw that. Randy Savage was trying to revive.
Why wouldn't, if Heenan's tied in with them, why wouldn't he know this?
Right. Exactly. So Savage was outside the ring trying to get Hebner back in the ring after his second bump. Hebner's still selling at this point. Yeah, the brass knucks to Warrior. And Macho going up top, got to be for the elbow.
And absolutely attempted to destroy each other from the top. And yes,
He's got him. There goes your headset. We're going home. We're done here.
the official coming back over for the 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute.
What? He had the tights.
Okay, so Warrior kicks out of the elbow drop.
Awkward kick out. Yep.
Flair and Savage, or Flair and Perfect look distraught.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's just
Savage doesn't
Go ahead.
aligned with them at all.
It has just slowed the match down so much. Like, it was already a slow pace, and it's even slower now after the involvement of Flair and the ref bump. Like, it just, he probably could have cut 5 minutes off of this one. Warrior trying to use the ropes to power up as he does. Yep, there you go. Warrior pumped up now.
Both men have brutalized each other.
Uh-oh, he's signaling. He can taste it. He smells it. He is going to put Savage away right here.
Off the rope. Here it comes, Warrior. Yes, with a shoulder block.
God, that looks so good. I know it's such a basic move, and now you like
He makes it look so
Where do
good.
they get
at
the
the time,
energy?
man, the shoulder
The
block.
stamina.
The Ultimate Warrior asking the 80,000 plus. Should he give the Macho Man the press slam?
Savage.
That bodysuit is terrible, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That was, that was one of the things that I had forgotten about until I watched that special again this week. Recently, of just like, what, like, why? Like, I get it, but also like he didn't need it. Man, after 25 minutes to press.
It's about Warrior again.
What a hit. What a hit.
Macho Man Randy Savage down.
The Perfect tried to trip Warrior to distract so that Flair could hit Warrior with a chair on this point. And so, yeah, Hebner didn't see it.
I mean, it's one thing to have interference. It's another thing to have interference in what is a great match. Like,
Yep. Thank God this wasn't the main event.
well, you can't.
Yeah, not with Brett Bulldog. I get that, but also like, oh man,
No, I'm
like
just saying you can't finish a show with this kind of match.
you're right. Not for lack of trying from WWE sometimes, but yeah, it just
Oh, of course, Drew McIntyre didn't get the title, and he just sung to people at the end.
right.
They loved it.
Hey, yeah, I feel like the match has just kind of like stopped. I just like I'm losing interest almost because it's like so Perfect now trying to trip Macho.
He's going for another elbow.
Do it anyhow.
He's
The Macho
thinking.
Man Randy Savage.
Savage is thinking. Something's going through his mind.
All Savage has to do is leap from the top, drop the elbow, and he will retain his WWF Championship.
Boy, Vince sounds
The Warrior.
like choked up, like he can't talk.
Why is he up there so long? He must be having second. Wait a minute. He's looking at the Ric Flair. Here he comes. Oh!
I bet he tore his knee. He blew his knee out, pal. Big time.
Macho Man Randy Savage choosing
Why?
not to leap on the Warrior. Instead, leaping on Ric Flair, but Yes, I agree with you. Ric Flair, Cole Cockney with the chair. You real.
Ugh.
Just makes no sense. Like, why? Yeah.
It really doesn't, does it?
And so this will come into play later. They're working over the leg of Macho.
Wish him good luck. They're trying to break his knee, and they'll do it.
Why is this not a DQ?
I was just thinking that too. Why is this no non-DQ?
The Ultimate Warrior trying to get himself together. Meanwhile, on the outside, Mr.
Perfect just knocked out the ring.
Are trying to annihilate the WWF champion. They're trying to destroy Randy Savage. Somebody has to stop this. Snap it. Break it.
Keenan, so good.
Neither the Warrior, neither the Macho Man sold out. Where's the Warrior? Where is the Warrior? If there was a price to be paid, this is it, and now they're going to finish him off. Warrior grabs a chair from Flair and snatches it away. Get out of there, get out of there. You'll take your head off with that chair. Get out of there. Run, run, run. Perfect. Flair, run.
As the Warrior chases off Flair and Perfect.
Perfect all the way back to the dressing room.
Ref is out.
And he's going to the hospital tonight.
Now look at all these people, man.
Macho Man doesn't look so macho, does he?
You just don't see crowds like this anymore because of, TV sets and setups and stuff like that. I mean, it's just a sea of people. It'll be interesting to, it's just different, just because, I feel like I don't even know if people would want to have those seats anymore. I mean, the fact those people are 70 yards away, you can barely see what the hell's going on in the ring.
So now we are finally back into the ring. Flair and Perfect are gone.
Referees nowhere to be found.
Right.
That bodysuit is just hideous.
It looks so bad. Like
the crowd's still into this. Oh,
Still, the World Wrestling Federation champion, Macho Man, Randy.
going with the count out.
there you go.
I assure you, this is not the way the Ultimate Warrior wanted to win.
There you go. After all that, you get a count out. I mean, again, a tale of two situations here. You have a 20-minute just awesome match between two of the all-time greats, and then nothing. So, all right, let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
What'd you think?
It started so strong, and I feel like every couple of minutes I just felt my score just getting ticked off lower and lower. Like it was just ridiculous. What about you?
Hated it.
Yeah.
I absolutely hated it. The Flair and Volt, it just made no sense.
And now these guys, again, after what just happened, so now Macho selling the leg and the injury there, Warrior trying to hold him up. Can you throw the crowd on real quick? I'm curious because they look like they're going crazy.
With the championship belt between them, two of the greatest competitors of all time. And this crowd of over 80,000 has witnessed one of the most grueling, one of the most competitive World Wrestling Federation Championship matches ever.
Yo, Vince is trying his hardest to sell it, but
yeah. The other thing too, I wonder, like nowadays, like it was spoilers. If like the internet was more of a thing at this point, like if we had found out about this is how this match ended, and it was like a spoiler that we were going to see 2 days later, like, yeah, I would be like, there's no way I'm buying this show. But okay, so Savage, he's of course selling the leg injury. He actually lost the title to Flair. It was that television taping on September 1st, 1992. You had during that match, you had not only Mr. Perfect, but Razor Ramon getting involved. So then you had the feud between Savage and Ramon. Bret Hart. And so I kind of pulled this quote. It was Bret Hart claimed in a 2014 interview that Vince McMahon had worked out the title change match with Flair and Savage beforehand, and that he was angry when they returned to the dressing room after the match because they had failed to do much of what was agreed upon. McMahon was so angry he actually set Bobby Heenan out to signal that the match be aborted, and then made them go straight back out and restart the whole match again. After producing much of the same match that they had immediately prior, McMahon allegedly threw his headset on the table and stormed off in frustration. WWE writers had originally planned that the Warrior should be the one to accept Perfect's services, turning heel in the process of winning the title, and that as new champion, he would further feud with Savage. After these plans were scrapped due to the Warrior's refusal to turn heel, the two were scheduled to face Flair and Ramon at Survivor Series 1992. However, as the Warrior quit the promotion on November 21st, his spot was surprisingly offered to Mr. Perfect, who accepted it in spite of Flair, thereby turning face and initiating a feud with Flair, which culminated in Flair leaving the WWE in January of 1993. Thoughts?
It all sucked.
Yep.
Everything about this sucks. And the worst part about it is you love all the players.
Yeah.
I mean, look who we're talking about. We're talking about Warrior, Flair, Perfect, Savage, Razor, that are all in this whole little thing.
Yeah.
It can only be one thing. Terrible booking.
Yep.
That's the only thing it can possibly be.
Which is what it boiled down to. Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. PWI, Savage was 2, Warrior was 10 this year. Of course, the Bulldog Bret Hart match kind of winning the best match of the evening, but Warrior versus Randy Savage and Bret Hart versus Bulldog were only a few spots that made an impression and no other good matches. But Savage put on his best major show performance since returning from his so-called retirement. Warrior beat Savage via countout in 26-17, so Savage retains the title. Warrior has shrunk like crazy. He looked about 225, very much like a taller Brian Pillman, but without wrestling ability. Consider he looked like this.
Hold on, did you think that?
No, not at all.
I think he still looks jacked. Like I don't know.
I'm at like 245 right now, and there's just no way. So considering he looked like this when he came back, then suddenly got noticeably bigger, then shrank a major amount in just a few weeks, you can't convince me of anything other than he was giving special permission to use chemical aids up until a few weeks ago, because he looked exactly like every big bodybuilder a few weeks ago after getting off the juice. Savage was great here and carrying the action. Warrior did a press slam and shoulder block, but Flair hit him with the chair when Savage wasn't looking. Savage went off the top rope, but instead dove on Flair. But on the way down, Flair hit Savage's knee with a chair. The spot looked really dangerous. Savage was counted out after the match. Flair put the figure 4 on him until Warrior made the save for Savage. After the match, to indicate neither had turned, Warrior grabbed the belt and put it on Savage and helped him to his feet. 4 stars. Oh my God. Sorry, buddy. 4 stars. What do you got?
I got this thing at a 4. My payoff score is 4 out of 10. The match started off great. The ending sucked. The booking sucked. It's a shame because this could have been really an all-time classic. What about you?
I probably on the wrestling alone would have given this, like, up until Flair and Perfect came out, probably like an 8. But with everything that happened, like, I'm at a 3. That was the discrepancy that I have with this, because it was just, it didn't get where it needed to go. And I don't think they knew where it needed to go. It was that bad.
Agreed.
So good for them and having a good match that gets ruined by, like you said, terrible, terrible booking.
That's it.
All right. I want to remind everybody, of course, again, of our sponsors as we send you home here, that Manscaped, True Classic Tees, and Caldera and Lab, of course. Make sure that, wherever it might be that you are checking out the various things that we offer to you guys, added discounts and different products, all kinds of good stuff. Manscaped, we've been using it since day one. I meant to tell you too, I actually I was thinking of you in the shower this morning. Not something I'd ever say, Tom, but this is one of those. I was thinking of my Manscaped ads as I was using my stuff, and so not that everybody could say that, and so that's just one of those things. And so, of course, using that promo code, just pay off. It's getting you 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped. So make sure that you're checking that out. True Classic Tees, of course, 25% off. That's using payoff 25. Payoff 25 is your code there. All kinds of great menswear, different stuff, just casual stuff, not like, suits, ties, anything like that. Just t-shirts, like stuff you can wear kind of bumming around, but everyday stuff. It's very good. I actually saw an actual like ad the other day too for them as well. They were kind of, on TV, or I was streaming something. I forget what it was, but yeah, it was good. And then of course, Caldera and Lab, our newest sponsor, whether they've got eye cream, I get it. It might be like, okay, I'm not going to use that shit. Like, no, it's absolutely worth it. It's good stuff. We wouldn't be trying to, promote it if we didn't think it was. And so it's one of those where definitely make sure to check it out. Caldera and Lab, using our code there. Again, just pay off. And that one's getting you 20% off as well too. Everything in your cart, whatever it is. So at that time, unfortunately, this match, we can't send him home happy with the match. I think this is one where we can at least send him home happy from the payoff.
All right. Well, we appreciate you sticking with us through this one, and we'll see you next week on an all-new episode of The Payoff.